Suzanne Gose here with homeschooling tips for you, lessons from the Coop. A lot of people really enjoyed my volume 1, which I didn't know it was going to be volume 1, but about roosters and leadership and how those analogies can really help us think about raising our children to be leaders. Today, we're talking about staying vigilant. And so homesteading is a lot like homeschooling. And so I've had some devastation here on the homestead lately. And I realized, wow, there's a lot more analogies here because I did a poor job. And if I had done a better job, we wouldn't have had this devastation. My coop, my flock of chickens, we went from about 65 chickens down to literally one now. I have one. I was aware things were happening and I wasn't doing enough quickly enough. I didn't have enough preventative measures in place. And I had one mama hen left. And I mean, I have new chicks now and everything's okay. But I just saw it go down, down, down. And we were doing things, but anyhow, that's another story. We did not catch the bobcat. It was a bobcat. We did not catch it. We did not trap it, but it did move on, right? The food source was gone and we were being more vigilant with our one chicken. So it has moved on. But homesteading is like homeschooling. You have to have consistency, which I was lacking. You need to think about, are you watching or are you guarding your flock? And both of them are important. You have to watch and guard. And then we're going to talk about all the poop. So let's get started. Consistency. So of course, we all know that healthy relationships take time. You have to consistently, daily be involved with your children, with your husband, with their education. Same with chickens. I have to be watching them. I have to be around them. I need to know their tendencies. So as I talk about chickens, my flock, apply that analogy, that metaphor to your children. I watch my flock to see if they're moving quickly, if they seem happy, if in general they are paying attention to their surroundings, or are they a little bit droopy? Is there something going on with their health? This is a daily thing. I hang out there because I love them. I love being with them. I really think they're great and funny and enjoyable, but really I'm watching. I'm paying attention to their actions and their sounds and the way they look, their feather consistency, all that stuff. So apply that idea of your flock needs you to be consistently involved in a relationship. Healthy habits take time. I need to make sure that I got them their food at a certain time. That helps them to grow more regularly, to stay healthy, to not have those dips and high parts and everything. So the habits are for chickens similar to children. We put these habits in, but it's not a habit if you're not consistently doing it. It's just mealtime. But that consistency of having some regular rhythm to their life helps them to not only grow more effectively, but also to become a better citizen and more effective in their world as they grow. Same with chickens. I want them to get up at a certain time and go to bed at a certain time, partly because it's easier for everybody, but also because it's the healthy way. So for your children, any habits that you want, the good ones, you want to be consistent with it. Bad habits, you got to get rid of those. If you skip one day hanging out with your flock, that's no big deal, right? One day a month, not a big thing. Even 2 days in a month, it's not going to affect your chickens. Your flock isn't going to completely disappear. But if it becomes a habit where I stop going out to my flock, I go 3 or 4 days in a row with kind of letting something slide. I don't go out and hang out with them. I don't feed them at the exact same time. I don't close the coop at the exact same time. 3 or 4 days in a row, that lack of vigilance allows bad things to happen, like a bobcat, or one chicken's gone. Something's happened and something has dropped. So in children, this could be, oh, a bad habit has creeped up. I didn't notice it because I lacked 4 days in a row of intense, purposeful watching or just being around them 4 or 5 days in a row. If it's just once, no big deal. But you really have to be with them consistently to help with a healthy relationship and healthy habits. Same thing with the flock out in the chicken yard. It can be actually disastrous. And that is what happened. I was not out there for several days in a row. I didn't go and hang out with them. I just got busy or traveling or whatever. It wasn't anything bad on my part. There were actual legitimate reasons. And suddenly when I did get back to it, I went, I'm missing 5 chickens and 2 roosters. What's happening? And so it was after the trauma has occurred that now I have to add in the next part, which is guarding. So consistency is the biggest part, right? It's small responsibilities, small disciplines that you do regularly. I know you see this cute little guy and you're like, oh, he's so cute. No, he is evil. That is an evil, evil raccoon. They work in pairs or in families. They come at night and they decimate your chickens. So predators often look very cute. They're very charming. They come when you're not paying attention, when you're sleeping. So everything from screen time to being on the phone to talking to kids that maybe aren't in the same spot that your child is in as far as integrity, maturity, responsibility, good or bad habits. And that predator can decimate your flock. And so then you have to get vigilant. You have to add more to it, right? You have to, oh, I really have to protect them now because I accidentally let this predator become a normal part of my life. So now I have to set traps. I've got to get cameras. I have to do all kinds of stuff. So I went from just watching my flock to now I have to guard. So watching is extremely important. I always said, consistently watching. And you're not really like protecting them. You're not like trying to keep things away. You're just paying attention. Who are they hanging out with? What kind of footprints are around? What's happening on a daily and nightly basis when I'm not staring at them or I'm watching, but I'm not in the mix. What happens when I'm not in the mix? And sometimes raccoons happen. Sometimes they take 2 chickens. Sometimes they work together and they leave carcasses everywhere because they killed more than they could carry off. Skunks are the worst. They just take the heads. Okay, sorry, I'm going into chicken yard ideas again instead of my analogies. The main idea is if you are watching, you typically don't really have to guard too much. But guarding is important because guarding happens during the vulnerable times. So at night for the chickens, I have to have them all cooped up. Everything has to be locked. I have to make sure that the locks aren't accessible by raccoons, which is like carabiners. They don't have opposable thumbs, so that works. For kids, we have these boundaries, right? We have no screens in the bedrooms. Screen time is only this time to this time. You always need to have somebody present when you're on a screen. If you're having a conversation that's out loud, that's one thing. But if you're having a conversation over text, you better believe I'm going to be looking at that later. And so I'm setting up boundaries to protect them so that when I am not around, I have safeguards in that hopefully they've learned to follow. They'll stay within my boundaries, and that's going to protect them not only now when they're in my house, when I'm in charge of their actions and their consequences for any kind of behavior, but it'll get them in the habit of having those same boundaries as they grow. And so they learn how to act. My chickens, they'll run into the coop if there's problems. They'll sound the alarm, letting me know, hey, there's problems over here. And so I will rush out if it's nighttime and I can hear them telling me something bad is going on. So we guard our flocks because there are predators out there. Pretending like no raccoons exist would be idiotic. And unfortunately, oftentimes the predator comes in and that's when you learn how to fight it because you don't know what predators there are. You don't know what your child is vulnerable to. And so you have to set up different opportunities because whatever boundaries you've put up, we thought a fence and a raccoon-proof coop would be good enough. Nope, the bobcat came right before dusk. I have a door that closes when the sun goes down automatically, so I don't have to watch. Well, the bobcat figured out when it goes down, when it goes up. Some of the chickens, they stopped roosting inside the coop. They roosted outside the coop. They're not following. I wasn't watching. I wasn't paying attention to this habit. And so they're outside the coop every night. And now they're vulnerable. And guess what? They're no longer with me because I wasn't watching. I wasn't doing my nightly kind of walk through, which I used to. So all these analogies, I hope, are helpful to you. And you're going to glean some, oh, yeah, this is important. I don't want you to lose your flock. I don't want you to have to put in more boundaries, but we often do. And so that's the last point. You end up adding them in after the trauma has happened. They're gonna have problems. They're going to have traumatic experiences. They're going to mess up. And we kind of want them to. We want them to mess up when they're under our roof so we can see the problem, train them how to fix the problem, and then help them through to a better maturity level with more integrity, more discipline, more good habits. So it's not the end of the world when the trauma happens. It has to happen. That's the only way we grow. So I find out what predators are out there, and then I'm able to swoop in and give my flock the tools to survive the next attack. So the predators will come. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent or a bad homesteader because there's predators. We just have to adjust with that and become resourceful as we see it. We can't pretend like they don't exist and recognize that they do look cute and fuzzy, even though they're evil. Okay, all the poop. There's a lot of poop on a homestead. Yeah, there's that kind of poop, like right in the middle of a beautiful day, and then something happens. There's massive amounts sometimes, and you feel like, oh my goodness, my whole life is just, I'm literally shoveling poop all day long. And then there's when the poop is beneficial, but you don't want to be around it. So those are some analogies for life and homesteading. Poop stinks. It's not good. You don't want it, but it happens. There will always be poop. When I am talking about the analogy for children, I'm saying there's bad habits. There's a fallout. There's unpleasantness. There's bad attitudes. There's drama. There's wounding. There's family breakups. There's relationship problems. It exists. Acting like you don't have poop is ridiculous. Of course you poop. I poop. You poop. We all poop. All the animals poop. Your children poop. The cool thing is it's a health meter. That fallout, those negative, unpleasant things show you who is your child. Who are you? What is your relationship like? So for my chickens, I can look at their poop and find out how healthy they are. For my goats, for turkeys, for, you're always looking at their poop because that's the health meter. Well, in life, that's also a health meter. How do you react? How do you respond? How does your child react or respond when there's drama, when there's problem? What does their fall off? What do their droppings look like when stuff gets tough? That's a health meter. Pay attention. Look at it. What is it telling you about the internal situation of your child and of your family? You need to look at their droppings as they walk. So meaning for chickens, literally, they poop and walk and poop and walk. Like they're just like pigeons. Your children, my children, they sometimes it's physical. They're dropping their backpack, dropping their books, dropping their socks, their jacket, their hat. It's just like that. But the analogy I'm going for here is, who do they walk with? And when those kids have friction, whenever their friends have friction, what does that look like? That shows you something different than your family relationship. Pay attention to how they respond to friction in their families. What do they do nightly? What's a general thing? At the end of the day, typically there's some stress, there's frustration. You're the worst part of the day is the end of the day because you're exhausted. So a lot of bad stuff happens at the end of the day simply because you're just tired. And so things get said sometimes, habits get dropped, good habits get dropped, bad habits increase. So look at that nightly. Are there habits at the end of the day that, is it fine? Or do you really need to look at their health throughout the day and see what's causing that poop to stink a little bit more? It's the same with chickens. You look at where do they coop up? What does their poop look like in there? Because that's typically another bad health issue. You're going to see it in there more easily. You're just getting a homesteading education as well as a homeschooling education. And then check what droppings are around the flock. So this is where in my chicken yard, the predators don't leave there. I keep looking out there because that's my chicken yard is out there out my window here. The predators do not leave their poop in the yard. Typically, it's around the homestead. And so that's how I knew that it was a bobcat, was because he left a present for us. And so we're able to find out what kind of dropping is that. It's called scat, right? What kind of scat is that? And we found out it's a bobcat scat. And so we knew, and that bobcat was like right up next to my house. He had bravado. I know he was not scared of us. That was awful. So in real life, not chicken yard ideas, look around. What are other people saying about your children? What other kind of droppings are you finding with other relationships? Is it in their classrooms, their sports, any kind of church activities? Check it out. What other drama is happening? Pretending like your children are perfect doesn't help anybody. It's sacrificially loving to ask for the bad news from their authority figures that aren't you. That's sacrificial. It's uncomfortable. Hey, I need to know the worst qualities you see in my child. Man, that doesn't feel good. But you need to know the poop, because that's how you fix their health. All right. I hope that helps you. I hate to end on a poopy note, but I think it's effective. And if you have any questions or comments, or if this helped you at all, I would love for you to leave a comment below, or email me. You know where to find me: Facebook, Instagram, all the different places. So stay vigilant, my friends. Homeschool and homestead. If you need any tips or you have any questions, I'm here to help. It's my favorite thing to do.